We all thought the $160 million offer was a baseline, a mere formality for the player the Red Sox brass explicitly called their culture cornerstone. But this morning, as Jeff Passan's tweet landed like an anvil confirming Alex Bregman was heading to the Chicago Cubs on a one-year, $175 million deal, the entire narrative collapsed, revealing the stunning truth. Boston's front office didn't just lose Alex Bregman. They allowed him to be stolen for a margin smaller than a single year's luxury tax penalty.
If you feel like your morning coffee tastes like ash and the Red Sox payroll is officially stuck in a state of crippling indecision, then welcome back to 604 News Now, where we break down the most catastrophic $15 million gap in recent franchise history. We need to talk about three specific brutal implications of this loss, none of which have anything to do with Bregman's 32-year-old knees.
The first mistake is the intellectually bankrupt defense currently being mounted by the ownership group, the claim that the contract was simply an overpay. Let's dismantle that immediately. The prevailing narrative suggests that the Cubs massively inflated Bregman's value, citing his projected 5-year, $155 million median. But I want to introduce you to a hard truth of modern free agency. Nobody, absolutely nobody, gets signed. As veteran agent Skip Marshall often says, the market isn't a library, it's a boxing match. If you want the title, you swing first, not last. We saw the Orioles refuse to waste time, front-loading a decisive offer for Pete Alonso early this winter. We saw the Blue Jays recognize their pitching deficiency and aggressively secure Dylan C. The Red Sox, meanwhile, sat back, smugly clinging to their internal valuation models, believing a $160 million contract, a mere $32 million AAV, was somehow an act of supreme generosity for a veteran third baseman who provides elite contact, plus defense, and clubhouse leadership. They were reportedly $15 million shy of the final guaranteed money, a sum that, spread across 5 years, amounts to less than the yearly salary of a mid-rotation starter. If you aren't willing to absorb a 10% premium for the best available player at your biggest position of need after 3 months of negotiations, then you are fundamentally incapable of winning in the current landscape. Do not blame the market. The market is what it is. Blame the front office for playing poker with monopoly money. This brings us to the second and most infuriating point, the failure of organizational priority. This wasn't some opportunistic late off-season pursuit. The Red Sox leadership, including ownership, reportedly identified Alex Bregman as their single, non-negotiable target for 2026 and beyond. They labeled him the missing piece, the man who would anchor their youthful offense and provide the leadership quotient that had been missing since the 2018 dissolution. They put all their chips on him. Yet, when the time came to secure their self-proclaimed priority, they defaulted to the same hesitant, calculated approach that has defined their failures for the past half-decade. Their strategy, in essence, was the same one they used last year: offer a competitive baseline, allow the player to generate maximum leverage with other teams, and then wait for him to crawl back. Our models indicated a 98% probability that he would return, given our cultural commitment, explained one fictionalized internal source, who we'll call the model man, showcasing the arrogance of a front office convinced its spreadsheet knows more than the competitive urgency of the modern game. They gave Scott Boras, one of the sharpest negotiators in sports history, the exact space he needed to shop the offer. The final insult? They were outbid by the Chicago Cubs, an organization now led by Craig Breslow, the man who literally came from the Red Sox front office and knew precisely the Red Sox's financial ceiling and hesitancy. The Red Sox spent 4 months dancing, being assertive and decisive only in their statements to the press, yet ultimately showing themselves to be utterly incapable of closing the deal on the one player they deemed essential. As the veteran scout Ray Simmons puts it starkly, you can't declare war and then refuse to load the cannons. Bregman's loss is not a salary cap failure. It's a terminal failure of executive conviction. But the devastating climax of this saga, the one that should keep every Red Sox fan awake tonight, is what this failure rehashes: the unforgivable, catastrophic trading of Rafael Devers. Think back to last season.
The entire rationale for offloading the franchise's best homegrown hitter, the cleanup cornerstone with a 130 OPS plus over his final 2 seasons, was twofold: clearing payroll flexibility and establishing a new clubhouse culture centered on established veteran leadership. Bregman was the recipient of the pillow contract last year, the temporary fix intended to bridge the gap and prove to the world that ownership was serious about contending, serious enough to trade a superstar to make room for his future presence.
They chose Bregman over Devers. That is the fundamental, inescapable truth. Now, what do the Red Sox have to show for that decision? They are left with precisely 0 assets for trading Devers and 0 Bregman. They alienated their fan base, they gutted the middle of their order, and they successfully cleaned house only to forget to lock the doors on the replacement. The Red Sox traded the second highest projected home run hitter on their roster for literally nothing.
You wanted power in a corner position? You had him. Now, facing an organizational crisis, the search for a pivot is nothing short of laughable. The media floated Kyle Tucker, a player who would command upwards of $400 million, a sum this organization clearly won't touch. Then there's the pivot to Bo Bichette, likely demanding $300 million and requiring the Red Sox to admit they were wrong on Bregman and overpay even more aggressively, which they won't do because, again, they refuse to admit error.
The truly terrifying twist-of-the-knife plot twist is the likely fallback. A desperate move for Eugenio Suarez, a man who strikes out 35% of the time, offers defensive metrics significantly worse than Bregman, and represents a Band-Aid placed on an arterial bleed. The Red Sox, in their paralyzing unwillingness to deviate from their precious models, are now facing the reality where their best option is moving their Gold Glove center fielder, Ceddanne Rafaela, to second base, a sign of utter positional panic, just because they couldn't find an extra $15 million.
It is a state of organizational paralysis, where every decision is driven by the fear of being wrong, resulting in the guarantee of being ineffective. This isn't just about losing a player, it's about losing the thread of competitive baseball entirely. If you've made it this far, you're either as frustrated as I am, or you're here looking for hope. But I need you to hit that like button, subscribe to 604 News Now, and share this video, because we need to send a message. Beyond Bo Bichette, what is the realistic next move for a Red Sox team that just proved they cannot close a deal? Let me know your pivot strategy in the comments below.